Hello everyone, my name is Omid Roustaei and I'd like to welcome you to the beautiful Pacific Northwest here in Seattle, Washington. I'm so excited to be back one more time to do another episode for the Farhang Flavor series, and today I'll be making a classic Iranian rice dish called Havij Polow, which is a rice tossed with saffron carrots and candied orange and often served with either braised chicken, lamb, or beef, and today I'll be making it with chicken. Before we get started, I really like to thank the foundation for not only giving me this great opportunity and platform to showcase Iranian cuisine and have the opportunity to promote the culture, but also to really thank the foundation for all the great programmings and all the great events they put together for us during this really difficult and challenging pandemic year. I know for me and my family it was really important, really significant to still be able to come together, gather around and celebrate our culture and our traditions and our holidays. So let's get started. We'll go back into the kitchen and I will go through the step-by-steps of how to put together this very classic Iranian dish. Okay, let's get started with making our Havij Polow today. When preparing for this dish, there are 4 parts you need to plan for. There is, of course, the rice, the carrots, the candied orange, and the chicken. So I'll go over the list of ingredients with you, and then we'll start assembling them one at a time. And here's everything you'll need to make Havij Polow for today. You'll start out with cutting up 4 pieces of carrots, julienne style, that will get lightly sauteed with oil and tossed with some saffron water. For the candied orange, I used a navel orange that I cut up the peel and julienne them as well and cooked it with about half a cup of sugar and half a cup of water for about 15 minutes until it turns into a light syrup and the orange is nicely cooked and tenderized. Alternatively, you can just purchase a orange marmalade and use that instead. For the rice, I'm using 2 cups of white basmati rice, and I have a whole chicken here that I will cut up and saute the pieces individually. Or alternatively, you can certainly use a boneless, skinless chicken if that's what you prefer. So the chicken is going to get cooked with 1 sliced onion, some turmeric, salt, pepper, and of course, more saffron. All right, let's get started. Now we're going to start with preparing the chicken. So heat your pan, add about a couple of tablespoons of oil. I'm using avocado oil today. Spread the oil around and then quickly add your sliced onion. We're going to stay here and stir this until the onions become nice and caramelized, about 10-15 minutes, and then we'll add our precious golden turmeric. Now that the onions have sauteed for about 15 minutes, I'll go ahead and add 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of turmeric, and about half a teaspoon of black pepper, and give it a nice stir. Saute this for another minute or 2, and you're going to remove this whole thing and clean it up as much as you can. You don't need to wash it, but just scrape it as much as you can. Then you'll add more oil and then begin sauteing the chicken pieces. Okay, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of oil, and then I'm going to put the chicken skin side down and keep it on about medium to high heat without disturbing it until it's nice and crisp on the skin side. Okay, now we'll let this side also saute for about 5 minutes. before adding all the onions and a cup of water, covering it and cooking it for about 75 to 90 minutes, however long it takes for the chicken to be fork tender. Bring this mixture back to a near gentle boil and then cover it, cook it till tender. To cook the carrots, you'll need about a couple of tablespoons of oil and 4 carrots that you had julienned. I also am using some golden and purple carrots just to give it a nice additional look. So add the carrots, and you're going to toss this and cook this for about 5 minutes. You don't need to cook it any more than that because this will continue to cook in the rice. So make sure you actually don't overcook it. Carrots have cooked for a few minutes and they're beginning to soften. And now I'll go ahead and add my candied orange. This is about half a cup. So if you're using an orange marmalade, that's about the amount you would want to use. Go ahead and give it a quick little stir. You don't need to over stir. And at this point, you're just gonna add about 3 tablespoons of saffron water. And now we can turn this off and put it aside until we're ready to use it in the rice. So to make the rice, you're gonna need about 8 to 10 cups of water that you're gonna bring to a boil. Add about a couple of tablespoons of sea salt, and then add 2 cups of soaked basmati rice. This has soaked for at least an hour, but you can soak it up to 8 hours. And then I've rinsed it, and this is going to get added right into the boiling water. And depending on the rice that you're going to use, you're going to need to parboil this for about 5, 6, 7 minutes. It really just depends on the variety of the rice that you've used. What I'm ultimately looking for is the rice to be a little al dente, not fully cooked and certainly not crunchy. That sweet spot where it is just softened so that it can go into the next stage of cooking when it gets layered with the carrots and orange peel. So the rice is cooked for about 6 minutes, and when you pull it up and check it out, you see how the grains have been elongated. But ultimately, take a couple of grains and taste it and test to see whether they are in that al dente stage that we had talked about. And this is just perfect. So I'm going to take it to the sink and pour it into a colander and bring it back to the table, and then we can start assembling. Okay, time to assemble the rice. So we will always start with making the tahdig, which is the golden crispy rice on the bottom of the pot. You can easily just add some oil in the bottom of the pot and then mix the rice and the carrots and then arrange it on the bottom and build it up, and that's perfectly fine and quite traditional. I sometimes prefer to actually just keep the rice simple, the tahdig rather simple. So I will take the rice, toss it with some saffron water, put that little bit of oil on the bottom of the pot and arrange a thin layer of saffron rice on the bottom, and then I will layer the rice and the carrots. That way the tahdig is just golden crispy saffron rice. So we need to talk about saffron also a little bit. And saffron, as you know, are these precious, beautiful, expensive threads that come from the crocus flower. So how Iranians honor the use and traditions of using saffron is that we take the saffron and we put it in our mortar and pestles and we crush it into a fine ground, that then we add some water to this and essentially bloom the saffron into a tea. And so when I need to use saffron, most Iranians use it that way, that we go into a refrigerator and take the saffron water, which is then ready to go and easy to use, and we use that into our stews, braises, and in this case, the rice. So let's assemble the tahdig. I am going to take about a little less than a cup of this partially parboiled rice and toss it in with my saffron water, gently toss it, and you will quickly see the beautiful golden color that gets developed. And that is what's going to be my saffron tahdig. To my non-stick pan, I'm going to add about a couple of tablespoons of oil and make sure You spread that around so that when the rice goes in there, it has the opportunity to not only get golden and crispy, but also to be able to easily lift off. So go ahead and put all of the saffron rice on the bottom of the pan and gently spread it all around so that there's a nice thin layer of this saffron rice on the bottom of the pan. Once the bottom of the pot is layered with the saffron rice, and then I'll start layering some of this white rice on top, and then I'll alternate between the rice and some of the saffron carrots that we had sauteed and tossed it with a little bit of that candied orange. And you'll do so until all of the rice and all of the carrots have been integrated into the pot. Now that the rice and the carrots have been nicely layered inside the pot, the only thing left to do is wrap a towel around the lid, or you may have one of these cloths with an elastic band around it, which we call damkoni. You'll put that on top. That ensures the steam is captured and pulled away from the rice so that when the rice is cooked, it remains light and fluffy, which is a classic Iranian texture we expect from our rice. Now we'll put this on the stove. We'll cook it on medium-low heat for about 45 minutes. The chicken is cooked for about an hour and a half, and it looks beautifully cooked. The broth is notably reduced, so all I have to do is add more saffron water. Pour that in, turn the flame off, and drizzle this saffron over the chicken, turn the flame off, and let it sit until you're ready to serve. Okay, everything is cooked and ready to be served up. The rice is incredibly light and fluffy and quite aromatic with that hint of citrus. And the chicken is just succulent and tender and just really beautifully golden with that layer of saffron that we just added. So I'm going to get a spatula and remove the rice and put it on my platter and then arrange the chicken all around it. Okay, now we will go ahead and arrange some of the chicken on the side. And I will save the broth and put it in a little cup and put it on the spread and serve it with that broth for anyone who wanted additional broth on the rice. And I like to also just sprinkle a little bit of slivered green pistachios on top, and this will be ready to serve. Okay, it is time to eat. We have our Havij Polow with chicken, crispy saffron rice tahdig, and extra chicken broth that I will drizzle over the chicken. Thank you for joining me one more time in my kitchen as I prepared another classic Iranian dish. I hope you get to prepare this and share this with your loved ones, and above all, enjoy it. Nusha Jan, everyone.